The moment Oscar Piastri's voice cracked through the radio in Singapore, it wasn't just static. It was the sound of a driver losing faith in his own team. That's not fair. If he has to avoid another car by hitting me, that's a pretty bad way of avoiding. The tone was sharp, raw, something we'd never heard from the calm Australian before. Inside McLaren, you could feel the tension shift from quiet rivalry to open fracture. If you love Formula One without the PR filter, hit subscribe. We're going deep into the heart of McLaren's civil war. Under the lights of Marina Bay, everything looked perfect from the outside. McLaren leading the constructors, 2 drivers still in the title hunt. But one radio message shattered that illusion. The clash between Piastri and Lando Norris wasn't just carbon and contact. It was the sound of a driver losing faith in his own team. Lap 1, turn 3, and everything unraveled. Lando Norris launched hard from 5th, diving towards the inside as Verstappen defended ahead. For a split second, there was nowhere to go. His McLaren twitched, slid, and clipped the sister car. Piastri's car jolted sideways, losing grip and 2 positions while Norris escaped almost untouched. The stewards called it a racing incident. McLaren's pit wall didn't challenge it. But inside Oscar's cockpit, disbelief turned to anger. To him, it wasn't about the scrape of carbon. It was about what it symbolized, that in moments of conflict, the benefit of the doubt always seemed to go one way. Then came the pit stops. Norris, 2.3 seconds, flawless. Piastri, 3.8, a rear jack jammed. On a street circuit where overtaking is nearly impossible, that extra second was a death sentence. Norris emerged into clean air, Piastri into traffic. "Why was my stop so slow again?" he asked. The reply, a sterile line about equipment failure, only deepened the wound. By mid-race, the frustration wasn't hidden anymore. McLaren's dream weekend was cracking from within. Andrea Stella's voice over the intercom was measured, almost rehearsed. No issues between our drivers, both had space. To the cameras, it was the line McLaren had to sell. Calm, unity, control. But behind the screens, the atmosphere was suffocating. Engineers avoided eye contact, strategists whispered about the pattern they all swore didn't exist. Piastri wasn't hiding his feelings anymore. After crossing the line in 4th, he radioed in with ice-cold restraint. "We'll have a chat with the team later." Short words, but they carried the weight of something breaking. In contrast, Norris laughed through post-race interviews, brushing off the contact as just one of those racing moments. To the paddock, it looked like one driver protected by silence and another left to absorb the hit. Andrea Stella's challenge was now psychological. How do you keep harmony when both drivers are fighting for a title and one of them believes equality is just a myth? McLaren's greatest strength this season had been unity. In Singapore, it became their biggest question mark. Singapore was only the spark. The fire had been building all season. In Silverstone, a slow front right tyre cost Piastri a podium. In Canada, he was left out on worn tyres while Norris was called in first. And in Budapest, when they both had the pace to win, it was Oscar who was placed on the slower 2-stop plan while Norris cruised to victory. Each time McLaren called it strategy optimization, but to Piastri, it sounded like déjà vu. The optics were brutal. Every time the margins mattered, they tilted the same way. A second here, a pit call there. In Formula One, those are the tiny cuts that decide championships. His manager Mark Webber knew that feeling all too well. He'd lived through it at Red Bull, when favoritism became politics and teamwork turned into survival. Inside McLaren, no one dared to say it out loud. But after Singapore, everyone knew what the numbers showed. Equal drivers on paper, unequal outcomes on track. The question wasn't whether it was intentional, it was how long Oscar would tolerate it. The moment the leaked radio hit social media, the internet ignited. #Justice for Piastri began trending within hours. Fans replayed the onboard footage frame by frame, accusing McLaren of protecting their golden boy. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Australians defending Oscar's composure, British fans rushing to Norris's defense, and neutrals calling out the hypocrisy of no team orders. The outrage wasn't just noise, it shaped perception. Data screenshots spread across Reddit and X, pit stop times, undercut calls, and strategy deltas showing how often Norris benefited. One fan wrote, "Papaya rules for papaya fools," echoing what many inside the paddock whispered off record. The British media tried to cool it down, calling the radio heat of the moment emotion. But the Australian press wasn't having it. To them, this was Mark Webber 2.0, another quiet Aussie learning how brutal team politics can be in a British garage. The narrative had escaped McLaren's control. What started as a few angry radio words had turned into a public trial of the team's integrity. By Monday morning, McLaren's headquarters in Woking felt less like a victory parade and more like crisis management. Andrea Stella called an all-hands meeting. Calm words, steady tone, classic damage control. "We win and lose together," he told the engineers. "Let's not fuel narratives that don't exist." But those narratives already existed, and they were spreading faster than any press statement could catch. Behind closed doors, Stella met with both drivers. Norris was relaxed, insisting the contact was just part of racing. Piastri was composed but cold. He didn't shout, didn't accuse, he simply asked, "What does equality really mean here?" That silence afterwards said everything. Zak Brown, the ever-political CEO, pushed for unity in public, but even he couldn't ignore the optics. Two drivers chasing a title, one believing the scales had tipped. The official line remained harmony. The body language told another story. Inside McLaren, trust, once their strongest weapon, was now the missing part. With 5 races left, McLaren should be celebrating dominance. Instead, they're balancing on a knife's edge. The Constructors' title might already be wrapped up, but the driver's crown is wide open, and now it's personal. Piastri's 4th place in Singapore cut his lead over Verstappen by just 12 points. Norris, meanwhile, sits close enough to play spoiler or saviour, depending on who you ask. Inside the garage, even small choices, who gets the new floor first, who runs the fresh power unit, have started to feel political. McLaren insists both cars are treated equally, but every mechanic knows that trust is the real performance upgrade. For Oscar, the fight isn't only on track anymore, it's for belief inside his own team. And if that faith disappears completely, strategy sheets and simulations won't save them. Formula One's history is full of teams that imploded under their own ambition, from Senna versus Prost to Rosberg versus Hamilton. McLaren might be writing the next chapter in that same book. When the lights fade at Marina Bay, McLaren's smiles look rehearsed. Norris congratulates the team, Piastri forces one. But behind the photo ops, both know the next race could redefine everything. You can patch carbon fiber, you can't patch trust. Andrea Stella hopes time will cool things down, but Singapore wasn't an accident. It was a mirror. It showed what McLaren has become, a team split between two futures, one driver fighting for recognition, the other for validation. And unless someone inside Woking steps up, the cracks will widen until they're impossible to hide. Piastri's radio might have been born in frustration, but it exposed a truth that every F1 fan recognizes. Equality only lasts until the championship's on the line. And this isn't over, because next week, under the floodlights of Lusail, the tension that started in Singapore could erupt again, this time with points, pride, and maybe McLaren's whole season on the line.